When disaster strikes, which rifle will keep you alive? Today we rank the top 6 bug-out rifles you need for survival. So buckle up! Hi everybody, welcome to LocaCarnivore. Glad you could join us. If you had to grab one rifle and disappear, would you choose the right one? Well, today we're going to rank the top 6 bug-out rifles. We're going to cover durability, ammo availability, and tactical advantages, amongst other things. Hey, let us know your number one pick down in the comments, would you? Hey, before we get started, I need to ask you to share this video. The big reason is, looks like YouTube, well, we know YouTube changed their algorithm a few months ago, and it has really hurt channels like ours that cover this type of content, whether it's related to hunting, guns, things like that. And it seems to have affected all the channels, even the big ones. Hickok45 recently released a quick video saying that his revenue is way down along with a lot of the other heavy hitters. So it's not just little old me. And the best way you can fight back is to share this video. Give it some legs, give it some traction. If we show YouTube that we are worth the money and we are making them money, they might change their minds, maybe, and basically let us out of limbo here. So again, it's up to you to help us get this content out to the world. So share it, please. What exactly makes a good bug-out rifle? What makes any particular rifle good for bug-out? And what is bugging out? Well, it's simply put, it is a situation where all of a sudden, for whatever reason, disaster, civil disorder, whatever it might be, you have to pick up and leave from your current location. And that might be your home, it might be another location, your business, you might be out shopping, whatever it is. Suddenly you have to leave. And you want to have a rifle with you for good reason, because handguns are nice, but long guns are far more useful, far more powerful, and they're just a better thing to have if you have to leave. And you don't know where you might have to bug out to. You might have a prearranged rendezvous point or a bolt hole, a cabin somewhere or something set up, or you might not. And you might end up not only just simply having to defend yourself potentially, you might have to provide your own food. You might have to hunt with this thing as well. So we need to kind of put all these criteria together. And there's several factors that make a rifle a good bug-out rifle. First of all, it has to be portable. It has to be something you can carry around fairly easily. It has to have good ammo availability. Also, we need this thing to be durable. It has to hold up. It has to be reliable. It has to function even in adverse conditions. And it has to be versatile. So we've defined what a bug-out rifle is and the characteristics it needs. Now let's apply those to our top 6 choices. We're going to count these down from number 6 all the way to number 1, and so make sure you stay with us all the way to the end of the video to find out what is, in our opinion, the best bug-out rifle. Now first off, well, before we even get started with that real quick, I got to ask you for a big like on this video. We've got to pump up the stats on this thing like I told you before. Get this thing out there, so doing a big like and hitting that thumbs up really helps. We would like you on the LocaCarnivore team, so please subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to ring that notification bell. That way you will not miss any of our great videos. Now, number 6 on our list, on our hit parade of bug-out rifles, is the M1A from Springfield Armory. And we're going to mention brands in here, but I don't have any brand deals with anybody. I don't have any sponsors, at least at the moment. And all the brands that we do mention are just because that's who makes this particular gun. Like, I mean, there's only one M1A out there for the most part. There's a few other things out there, like Fulton Armory and whatnot. So you can get other brands other than Springfield, but when you talk about an M1A, everybody thinks Springfield Armory. We get into the other rifles, will probably be less brand specific. But keeping going here, the M1A. It is a good bug-out rifle. It is a little, and we're going to kind of look at the advantages and disadvantages. On the advantage side, it is a hard-hitting gun. It is chambered in 308/7.62 by 51 NATO. So that gives it a good score for ammo availability because that ammunition is readily available. Maybe not 7.62 all the time, but certainly 308. It's probably the best selling hunting cartridge and general purpose high-powered rifle cartridge out there. So you're going to have good ammo availability. You're going to be able to find it just about anywhere you go. So big check mark for that, big positive. It is, like we said, a heavy hitter because that 308, it's often called 308. It really is a good cartridge. And in that long-barreled M1A with a 22-inch barrel, it will reach out quite a ways. It is effective to at least 800 yards. certainly to 600 yards. It is a very good cartridge, very accurate. It's noted for its accuracy. M1A, the guns, I mean, it's based on the M14 platform, which was never a super accurate platform to begin with. It was a service rifle, and service rifle accuracy has a different standard in the opinion of the Department of Defense than a precision rifle, but you can tune them up, and also you might just get a good accurate one. The other plus side, it has good ammo capacity, and it has versatile magazine choice. You can get a 10-round magazine, you can get 20-round and 25-rounders. I wouldn't advise the 25-rounders. I think there's some 25s out there. Hey, if you know one way or the other, just let me know in the comments. You know, make sure I'm on the right track here. At any rate, you can go with 10 or 20 rounders. The nice thing about the 10-rounder, it fits almost flush with the receiver, and so it kind of makes it look not so, you know, nasty or whatever with a big magazine sticking out. So if you need to kind of be a little more undercover with this thing, a little more covert, under the radar, if you will, it is a good choice for that. And there's plenty of mag carriers and all this sort of stuff because it's a commonly used size. It's a NATO magazine size. So you can get all that set up too. You can get all the gear you need for it. It's also fairly easy to keep clean and maintain in the field. It's a rugged design. It's quite reliable. And as we said, it can be quite accurate. Now, putting an optic on it gets a little fussy. However, you don't have to go with just the big honking service rifle version. There are shorter, lighter versions out there from Springfield, say their Tanker or the Squad Scout, which is a really good compromise. The Squad Scout is an 18-inch barrel versus like the Tanker and some of their other tactical models have 16-inch barrels. That gets pretty loud and a lot of muzzle blast with a 308. So that 18-inch is not a bad choice. And those guns, you can usually put a forward-mounted red dot or a long-relief scout scope on those. Put a regular optic on a regular M1A. You got to get the right mount. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but with the right mount, it can be done. And again, it's a very accurate gun, even once it's tuned up a little bit. And it's modifiable. There's a very good aftermarket out there. Lots of parts for it. You can put a chassis stock in it, which really helps on the accuracy thing. You can do all sorts of groovy things with this gun. Now on the downsides, it's a heavy beast. It's almost pushing 10 pounds there, really. And when you get it loaded up with a brick of 20 rounds of ammo, it's a heavy thing. And then an optic on top of it, you're pushing 11, even 12 pounds worth of gun. So that kind of cuts it down. However, if you go with the Squad Scout or something like that, and I just mentioned it because I think it's a really cool gun, that gets it much more portable and it knocks a couple pounds off the gun. So it is a little bit of a compromise, but if you need power, and again, if you need something that's kind of not so, assault rifle-y looking or whatever that, however you define that, it just doesn't, hit on people's visual radar, that's a really good choice. And the 308 cartridge, it's very versatile. It's a superb hunting cartridge. It'll take down the biggest animals, at least in North America. It has dropped grizzly bears. It has if you need it for defense against bears. It'll do moose, elk, deer, just about anything you care to hunt with. And of course, we know since it's a service rifle cartridge, it is superb in the self-defense role. So really good choice there, the M1A. Number 5 in our list of best bug-out rifles would be a lever action, a centerfire lever action. And specifically, we want something that's probably either in 30-30, which is a very common cartridge. The 30-30's dropped more deer for more years than probably any other cartridge on the planet. So good ammo availability, even out in the middle of nowhere. Or you could go with a pistol caliber, in which case I would suggest either 357 or 44 Magnum. Basically because you can get more ammo into the gun. Those tubular magazines will hold more ammo in the pistol calibers than they will with the 30-30. The lever action also has the advantage, it's very fast. It's probably one of the fastest manually operated repeating rifles out there. It's a very good, smooth action. Lots of good rifles that are made out there, so you don't have to worry too much about finding a good one. I would shy away from the Marlins that were done during the Remington dark days when they were owned by Remington and basically by the private equity firm that did not do that company any favors, let's put it that way, and keep it simple. But if you get a good quality one, they're very good. Lots of other brands, Henry, etc. And the big disadvantage though is, yes, they carry a reasonable amount of ammo, but they're slow to reload. You have to reload through the side gate, and if you get one of the older Henrys with the, the tube magazine that uncorks at the top and you put them in one at a time in the tube, that's really slow to reload. However, big advantage is it's probably the fastest action next to a semi-auto. So if you live in a place where you're limited in action choices, like they really clamp down on semi-autos and stuff like that, the lever action is a really good alternative. Plus, they're super thin, they're light, they're handy to carry. You can put them in a saddle scabbard if you have horses, if you're bugging out on horseback. You can rig up a scabbard for like a vehicle or whatever, and they're super handy. They're really quick on target. You just come right up, and they're really useful, which is why they're so popular for deer hunting, because the rifle comes up to the sights real quick, and it's a very instinctive pointing gun, and you can get a quick shot at a deer if you need to, and it has a very fast follow-up shot. Putting an optic on them, as long as you get the side eject versions, optics are no problem at all. You can go everything from red dot to magnified, whatever you want to do. A world's your oyster on optics there. Only downside, you're not going to get any tactical equipment for this thing, and carrying extra ammo is going to be pretty much probably like in belt loops or something like that, or a bandolier with loops, and really old school, old west. And that is going to be super slow, and it's not the best way to carry your ammo, in my opinion. But lever action, again, for several reasons, a very good choice, and that's why it's number 5 on our list of bug out rifles. That brings us to number 4 on our list, which would be bolt action rifles. And before I dive into that real quick, we would like your support. I know I already asked for likes and all that sort of stuff, but we do have a Patreon, so if you could go and give us a little love down there, the link's down in the description, that would be very helpful. We have a website, link in the description, LocaCarnivore.com. And while you're visiting there for extra content, please hit the store tab at the top of the screen, and you can get some really good LocaCarnivore merchandise. Great gift idea. So let's keep rolling into number 4, which I said was the bolt action rifle. I divide this into 2 categories. One would be a bolt action sporting rifle. Take your pick, any generalized hunting rifle, it would be fine, or a military surplus rifle. And I'll tell you the goods and the bads, the ups and the downs for each one. Now, why would I pick a bolt action rifle in this day and age of semi-autos? It seems a little old-fashioned. Well, we already talked about the lever action, which that's old-fashioned as well, but good design never goes out of style, and it never goes away because it works. And that's the nice thing about bolt actions. They are absolutely reliable. If you were looking for the epitome of reliability in a repeating action rifle, and one that's easy to maintain and keep clean in the field, you can't do any better than the bolt action. Yeah, your rate of fire is a little slow, but we'll get to that. There is one way around that, or one way to kind of improve that rate of fire. And your ammo capacity is generally fairly low. There are some ways to deal with that as well, which we'll talk about in just a moment, so stick with us here. Now, the bolt action, though, the big thing going for it, other than the reliability and the maintainability, is its accuracy. It is, quite frankly, the most accurate action design out there for a repeating rifle. And so if you're looking for something that you need to reach way out, or if you need to do precision shooting with it, or perimeter defense, or you need to do hunting, especially in a longer range environment, like you're out west or somewhere, or out in the desert or something, and you need to reach out there to, grab dinner, bolt actions are really going to be the best direction. Now, the sporters, the advantage of them is they look like just a normal, Uncle Fudd's hunting rifle. Nothing to worry about. It doesn't really kick on the radar, and they are probably the easiest to get a hold of and to own, regardless of what the laws might be. Well, and staying within the laws of wherever you might happen to be, they're generally the most accepted rifle type. So you generally don't have to worry about, hitting any legal hot buttons or anything like that. They're also fairly light and portable for the most part. Yeah, they've got longer barrels, up to 24 inches or so, but there's a lot of hunting rifles that are being produced now, particularly in general calibers like .308, stuff like that, with shorter barrels. 22 and even 20-inch barrels are out there now. So you can get a fairly light, fairly handy gun. And there's even 16-inch barreled ones. Those usually are considered youth-type guns, or guns that are made for people of smaller stature. So the stock length, the length of pull on the stock is generally going to be a shorter length of pull. So for a full-size adult male, it might be a little bit short. You might have to restock the thing. But they do have those more compact actions with the 16-inch barrel on the market. So something to think about there. Now let's talk about how do we resolve this problem of lower capacity and or speed of follow-up shots with the bolt-action rifle. One way to deal with that is to go with a surplus rifle, a military surplus rifle. By the way, I did a video not too long ago on the best military surplus rifles for homesteaders. So if you're a homesteader and you want to see which ones are the best, I'll put a link down in the description. You can go and check that out as well. I think you'll really enjoy it. Military surplus rifles in bolt action, they have several advantages. First of all, they look really old-timey and generally might not even have an optic on it. So they're pretty much under the radar. They're super reliable, of course, because they are service rifles, and you just have to get a good one. The ones I would recommend, I would go to any of the Mauser type actions, whether it's made, it's a Yugo or a Czech model or an actual German Mauser. These things were made all over the world and shipped all over the world. They were made in every country practically that had a military made or bought bolt-action rifles at one time or another, generally in the early part of the 20th century. So you can find plenty of the guns out there on the market in various calibers. If you can, I'd like to see you go with something like 30-06 or something like that, or in 308, that's a little easier to get the ammo for. But even something like if you get a KAR98K or the Yugo Mausers, any of the ones chambered in 7.92 by 57 Mauser, which is commonly referred to as 8mm Mauser, ammo is pretty good on that. You might have a little struggles in some places finding the ammo, but it's good ammo and it's a good rifle. They are accurate, and the 8mm Mauser really hits like a hammer, especially inside 400 yards. It's a superb cartridge. Another good choice for you would be the Lee Enfield. And I would talk any of the models that were made from basically the turn of the century forward, World War I on up. Those are all solid rifles. They all have their ins and outs. You can go do a deep dive on your own and figure out which is the best. But Lee Enfield has two things going for it. First of all, it has double the capacity of most military bolt actions because it holds 10 rounds. But it's a self-contained magazine, so it might or might not, depending on where you're at, fly under the radar and be very legal to own, but it would give you those 10 rounds. And the Lee Enfield has the fastest rate of fire of any bolt-action rifle. The British Army, the soldiers used to practice what they called the Mad Minute, and that would sling a lot of lead downrange in a hurry. In fact, the Lee Enfield produced such a high volume of fire that when the Germans first encountered British troops armed with these Enfields in World War I in 1914 and late 1914 and early 1915, they thought at first that they were facing multiple machine guns at a company or a squad level. They couldn't figure out why the British had so many machine guns, because the rate of fire capable of being produced from those Lee Enfields is so high that, again, the Germans thought they were facing machine guns instead of other bolt-action rifles. So it's a really good choice there. 303 British, which is the cartridge is what it's chambered in. A little difficult maybe to find, but it's still out there. It's relatively common, so not too hard to find really. So that would be a good choice in a bolt action. And you can cure the Mauser guns ammo capacity problems with fitting what was used during World War I and called a trench magazine, which is a 20-round magazine. Now it requires converting the gun a little bit, and you might need a gunsmith or whatever, but to make it work. But once you get it there, you'd have 20 rounds, and it's a pretty long magazine. But if you need extra capacity and you have the legal ability to own something like that, you might want to think about a Mauser with a trench mag. And don't forget the old the Mosey Nagant. The 7.62 by 54R ammo is out there, is relatively plentiful in the States. And if you happen to be not in the States and you're anywhere where the Soviet Union ever sent guns or had a footprint of any sort, you're going to find tons of ammo for it out there, plus plenty of the guns. So bolt-action rifle, really good choice. That's why we picked them. And here we get to number 3 on our list of best bug-out rifles. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Number 3 would be the AK platform. And I'm also going to lump in the SKS as well as the AK. They both take the same ammunition, 7.62 by 39, which is relatively plentiful. There's plenty of that ammo out there. It's easy to get. And this cartridge is a very good cartridge because it's good for self-defense. And it's also still powerful enough for hunting at reasonable ranges, say about 200 yards on deer-sized animals, stuff like that. The gun has obviously good capacity on it. They're pretty handy. They're a little on the heavy side. but they aren't that bad, and they're relatively short, so they're easy to, you know, carry in vehicles or whatever, something like that. Now that big magazine, that banana mag sticking out of the bottom, that's a little difficult to put like in a scabbard on a horse, on a saddle or something like that. But the SKS would fit that bill. If you're looking for a good saddle carbine, the SKS is a good way to go too. And you can get higher capacity magazine conversions for SKSs. I've heard those can be a little sketchy, but so check that out. You know, don't just take my word for it. But the SKS is a fine platform. Accuracy from both, it's going to be fair to mediocre, to be honest with you. But for the range of the cartridge, it is adequate enough. And there's a lot of support out there now for the AK, so you can trick these things out. And the SKS as well. You can trick these things out as far as you want to go. You can get optics on them and all that sort of stuff. So there's plenty of support out there. And like I said, it's just a good rifle. And it's reliable. It is just stone cold reliable. So the AK or the SKS, great choice at number 3. We're getting closer to that number 1. Hang in there with us. Number 2, and this is a close number 2 in my opinion, would be the AR10 or an AR10 type platform. And what is the AR10 if you're not familiar? Well, if you've ever heard of an AR15, this is its bigger brother, and it's actually the original gun that Eugene Stoner designed. It was originally designed for 7.62 by 51 NATO, i.e. 308. So think of these as 308 chambered ARs. And you're going to get all the benefits of an AR, but with the power, the knockdown power of that 308. So if you need to, you know, break down some cover or something like that and get at an assailant that's trying to hurt you, the 308 is just going to really rip things up. And it's a really good cartridge for that. Little less ammo capacity because you're talking a 20-round magazine typically, although there are 25s out there. And the other nice thing about the AR10, much like the M1A that we mentioned, you can get lower capacity mags like a 10 round or something, and that fits up again very neat into the magazine well, and it looks a little less scary to, you know, some people's eyes. So if you're legally able to own the basic gun, but you don't want to look too far, you know, don't want to gather a lot of attention or too much attention, you can pop a 10 rounder in there or something like that. But really good gun, and just like the M1A, you're going to get all the tactical gear you need, magazine carriers and everything. This is a standard military cartridge, and the magazines are standard military magazines these days. And putting a optic on this, piece of cake. You just, they got a flat top receiver. They'll take anything you want, and most AR accessories will fit on the AR10 platform. And they're super accurate. You'd be surprised how accurate they are, especially if they're made by a mainline major manufacturer who's noted for their quality. And there's a lot out there. There's different brands. You know, I'm not going to run down all the brands. You can figure that out for yourself. So the AR10 is a really good choice. And with the 16-inch barrel, or you can even get an 18-inch barrel, something like that, depending, it's a very handy gun. It's reasonably portable. A little heavier, yes. Although some light ones out there, manufacturers have been driving the weight down on that platform very aggressively over the last few years. So you can get some 308 AR-10s out there that weigh almost what a standard AR-15 would weigh. So again, really good choice, that AR-10. Great for hunting, great for defense. It's a very good tactical rifle as well, and plenty of ammo out there, and good magazine choices and plenty of tactical gear to support the gun. Before we roll into that number 1 bug out rifle choice, there's our little bonus section for you. We're going to cover some tactical considerations for these rifles. First of all, you might want to think very seriously about getting your bug out rifle fitted with a suppressor. They are super good as far as preserving your hearing. That's a really important thing. So if you're in a situation where you have to lay down a high volume of fire, or you're in an enclosed area or something, it will help maintain your hearing a lot better, and hearing helps you maintain situational awareness. And the good news is you can fit a suppressor onto just about any rifle. You might have to have a gunsmith do some threading for you or something like that, but super easy. I would recommend, especially if you're going with the AR type platform, is just putting a flash suppressor on it that is set up for a quick disconnect for a QD type suppressor. That's in my opinion, the ultimate way to go. That way you can take the suppressor on or off depending on the situation, how long the gun can or cannot be, all sorts of considerations. That's the way to go in my opinion. Next thing we want to think about is how are we going to carry this? Are we just going to use a sling? And if so, just an over-the-shoulder standard type sling, or are we going to do a tactical with, with a low ready type thing? Or are we just going to put this in a bug out bag? That's kind of something you need to decide. The bug out bag has the advantage of the rifle is concealed. It is covered up, and you can put the tactical bag anywhere you want, like in your vehicle or something like that. It's easy to grab, and you can have other things with in the tactical bag, like your ammo, cleaning supplies, whatever you need to do. There's extra magazines, whatever. So the tactical bag has good considerations. However, depending on the size of the tactical bag and the rifle involved and all that, deploying the gun could be a problem. So if you think you're going to need to bug out and have that rifle readily at hand, I would just go with the sling. Otherwise, the bug out bag makes a lot of sense. All right, what you've been waiting for. Thanks for staying with us. The #1 bug out rifle, it's the AR-15 Platform. What can you say? It's the most popular rifle in America. It outsells everything else. Hands down, there's just no comparison. And it is widely available. Ammo in 5.56/223, really available. I mean, it's everywhere. It's all over the place, and you can find it, well, anywhere you go. So that's a good thing. The ammo is light compared to .308, so you can put more of the rounds in a magazine. And you can see the difference of having 6 magazines loaded with 30 rounds each of 5.56 versus 6 magazines holding 20 rounds of .308. And believe me, if you get into a tight situation and it gets really, really nasty and desperate, you're going to need every round you've got on board. So it is a good way to go, something to think about. Now the 5.56, in my opinion, it's marginal for big game hunting. You need a good hunting bullet, and I would keep the ranges very conservative. I wouldn't use a .223 on, say, a deer-sized animal out beyond 100 yards, and I'd like to see inside 100 yards. 50 yards would be even better. So it doesn't score as high, in my opinion, for the hunting, so it's a little low on the versatility, but it can be done. And if you're an accurate shot and have the right ammunition, it'll feed you, no worries about that. And of course, it's a superb tactical platform. It's been in service with the United States military for what, 40 years now, or over 40 years? It's been around for a very long time, actually 50 years if you do the math. It's getting pretty scary, but at least 50 years. That's a long-serving weapon. It wouldn't be around if it wasn't good. It is reliable. It really is. I mean, the AK people, they poo-poo the AR platform all the time, but if you keep it even reasonably clean and even reasonably well lubricated, and you keep that dust cover closed on it, it will function in all sorts of nasty environments. It's a good, proven platform, quite accurate, and the sky's the limit. If you want to trick this thing out, you can do whatever you want with it. And there's even folding ones now. So, I mean, the big thing about the AK has always been, well, you can get a folding stock for it, and then it goes in a bug out bag, super slick. Well, you can get a folding AR these days, which is perfectly easy to use. And again, it answers that question of how do you put it in a bug out bag? Well, there you go. Just get a folding version. So with ammo availability, it's reliable, it's portable, it's lightweight, and it's handy, and you can get a folding version. What's not to like? So there you go. #1 bug out rifle, AR-15. So which rifle would you trust in a crisis? Why don't you go ahead and drop your personal choice down in those comments there. We'd still love to hear from you. I try to read as many of these as I can. I see most of your comments, frankly, and I do try to respond as often as I can. So, again, let's get that conversation going, shall we? Well, that wraps it up. Our 6 choices, our 6 top choices for bug out rifles. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Thank you for taking your valuable time and spending it with us today. We do appreciate it. And as always, never forget, I'm talking to you, George Lucas. Han shot first, doggone it. Thanks for watching.
Mwahaha!